Imagine a neon blue empty sky, and into this sky comes a single dark cloud. And within this cloud is some floating text. It reads, "I should have made that email to my boss better earlier on today." Now along comes another cloud with its own text. "Stop thinking about work, you're supposed to be meditating." Now the second cloud reaches out with wispy arms and starts trying to squash the first cloud. But of course, it can't, because neither cloud is made of anything solid. Now along comes cloud number 3. "Why can't I calm my mind? Why can I still not nail this meditation thing?" Now you have 3 clouds obscuring that empty sky, when all along you could have just allowed the first cloud to be as it was and pass naturally, as all clouds do, as all thoughts do. This is their nature. If you don't believe me, try keeping a thought exactly the same for just 30 seconds. If you manage it, please let me know how in a comment. I'll be curious. Of course, you might have similar thoughts that show up on repeat. You might even perceive these to be the same, but they're not. No 2 thoughts are exactly the same, just as even the most skilled actor will never read a line exactly the same twice. They'll get close, but if you listen intently enough, you'll detect subtle differences. The point here is that anything you do to attempt to quiet your mind only creates more noise. But this is uncomfortable to hear, isn't it? Because we were all trained to assume very deeply that trying is good and not trying is bad, regardless of what we're aspiring to do or not do. This was stamped into almost all of us before we were even making memories. And it's why so few of us ever realize the real goal of meditation: awakening. But if we consider the appropriateness of trying versus not trying for the specific aspiration of a quiet mind, we see that the latter is best. The problem, of course, is that none of us have a clue how to stop trying, at least not before we encounter the right kind of teaching. Even among spiritual practices which claim to quiet the mind, thousands of these actually just replace one kind of mental noise with another. When I begin working with a student, I almost always start with the same teaching: a direct pointing to their true nature as awareness. Then I give them a simple instruction to remember so they can continue to glimpse this nature following our conversation. That instruction is to rest naturally without seeking or describing anything, just for a brief moment. And either right then and there, or on our next call, or in a text message in between, almost every student asks the same question, which is, how do I do that? Now, if you're sharp today, viewer, perhaps you see what I see. That student who represents you, who represents me as I was when I first encountered this teaching, is essentially asking, how do I do non-doing? Now, I know that question is kind of hard to get your head around. It demonstrates the kind of paradox that's common in any authentic spiritual teaching. Here we are, in the midst of our spiritual path, still tortured by our thoughts, desperate to quiet the mind. And every good outcome we've had in life so far, for decades, has come from doing, trying, efforting, struggling, striving. But of course, there are side effects, and those side effects are what led us to explore spiritual practice in the first place. Of course, I'm talking about stress, fatigue, tension, anxiety. Even once we've understood intellectually that non-doing is the solution to these sufferings, we still can't stop. We're addicted to doing. So the crucial question is there something we can do to stop doing? Well, we start where we are. Recognize that your compulsive doing is occurring within the basic space of awareness. This is the only way you know it's occurring at all. Why do I call awareness a space? Because it is like that bright, clear sky in the metaphor I opened this video with. And any instance of doing, be it necking a bottle of tequila or performing the most sophisticated meditation technique, is just another cloud. Recognize that sky-like awareness as primary, in that it is the common essence in and in between all experience. Doing, whether physical, mental, or emotional, starts and stops, comes and goes. In this way, it is secondary. Although awareness and its contents are ultimately non-dual, we use this hierarchical model to demonstrate the difference between that basic space and what appears within it. As you recognize the primacy of awareness and the temporary nature of what appears within it, the appearances stop seeming so solid. Now, instead of trying to reach out and squash one doing by means of another doing, trying to squash thinking with a deliberate spiritual practice, you simply recognize the essence of all these appearances, awareness, and finally you relax. What a relief. It doesn't matter if you experience just a 1% reduction in tension or a full-blown awakening. As long as you're moving in the direction of benefit, then you're practicing correctly. The practice of no practice, the practice of non-doing, of non-meditation, of non-duality. Even more relief. Celebrate this. it is a tremendous victory. And in celebrating it, there is even more relief. And now you've entered into a feedback loop, a positive reinforcement. Only what you're reinforcing is complete and utter relaxation into your true nature, your default mode, unobscured by clouds, spontaneously and infinitely beneficial. Make this recognition the major focus of your life. I promise, no matter what other priorities you have, as long as they're aligned with benefit, then recognizing your true nature will make them profoundly easy to achieve. In fact, you're highly likely to come up with ways of solving problems and reaching goals that you never could have conceived of in the limited, selfish, dualistic state into which we're all trained from birth. Friend, if you enjoyed this teaching, do all the stuff that tells YouTube you want to see more of them. I am back in teaching mode now. I'm going to be writing and uploading these teachings just as fast as I can over the next little while, and I'll look forward to seeing you back here for the next one.